Chapter 2, Looking for a Home to Buy in Antigua. Are we crazy or what? Why would we even think about buying without first wanting to rent to make sure this is a wise move for us? If you watch Chapter 1, you'll know that I have worked in Latin America for many years with my job, so I know the region well. Also, full disclosure, I do have my real estate license in the state of Texas, and since leaving my sales job in Latin America, we've been living by our Airbnb business properties. My kids are worried, primarily the youngest one, Anna Sophia, who's 14, about if we live there, is her education going to be ruined? Is she going to lose her friends, etc.? We'd never do anything to jeopardize her future. Our older kids are out of school and are less concerned about this. We've been presented with a great opportunity, in my opinion, and want to take advantage of what Latin America calls the 3 Bs: bueno, bonito, y barato. Good, pretty, and cheap. Since we have multiple Airbnbs, we have that background, and I think I know what it will take to make this a successful venture if we do go that route for part of the year with the property. That will be in future chapters that you can look at. So I decided to hop a flight to Guatemala after deciding I didn't want to buy another property in the U.S. I wanted something that would be a legacy for our children to have someday, whether to live there and enjoy life at the pace that one finds in Antigua, or just as a great getaway spot. But something that says, wow, this is different and I love it. Thanks to my old job at Pantera, I got plenty of American Airlines miles, and it was only 30,000 points round trip from DFW to Guatemala City. I'm also blessed to have had many friends that I made in my job in Latin America. So I reached out with one of them who happens to also have an Airbnb in Antigua. My criteria was finding something in my price range. Less than $250K was our preferred budget that would be walkable to Antigua Central Park, and then added the south side as part of my criteria. One note regarding real estate agencies in Guatemala. There's not an MLS service, which means multi-listing service, meaning an agent for RE/MAX doesn't have access to the listings of a competitive broker such as Century 21. So if you like some listings at Century 21, you're going to have to go through a Century 21 agent. If you like a RE/MAX listing, then you need to go to a RE/MAX agent. They don't really work between brokers. So it was a little bit complicated, but that's something that you have to adapt with where you're not going to be in the U.S. anymore. So on the day of my arrival, Anibal set me up with an agent who showed me a listing of a home in the northern part of the city. It would have been a very long walk to Central Park. The house wasn't pretty, nor in good condition, and the worst part was the street that it was on. It was on a highly transited road that public transportation uses, with lots of buses going up and down. It was very loud and was always going to be that way. The next day, I saw a home via a RE/MAX agent in the southern part of the city, less than a 10-minute walk to the city center. Great location and a nice home, but it was listed at $355,000, which is really out of our budget, especially considering the amount of remodeling that would have needed to have taken place. Unfortunately, Antigua is not cheap regarding housing if you're in walking distance to the Central Park. Now, if you are willing to be outside of the city center within a 10 to 15 minute drive, you can find homes for $100,000. But we had already made the decision. We already live in the suburbs in the States, and we have to get in a car for everything. So we did not want that. So the reason Antigua in the city center is so expensive is that many Europeans and Americans have bought up properties and prices have soared. This house was a contender, but it still felt like it needed too much work. So once I saw how expensive the properties were, I started asking agents if any of the sellers would consider possible trade. I'd take their house in exchange for one of my Airbnb properties in the U.S. I knew it was a long shot, but I threw it out there trying to maybe get a seller to be enticed with the potential for a green card, because there is a program that allows foreign investors with several $100,000 to invest, not sure what the current amount is, to invest into a business. I could show them the earnings from a particular Airbnb and see if they might be interested. In this case, the owner was not interested. They wanted cash and wanted the money. So I put it on my potential list, but not high up there. The next day, I saw a couple of more homes with a Century 21 agent. I fell in love with one in the southern part of the city in an area called Cañales de Belén. It's a gated community with guards, a corner lot, exquisite design furniture. Unfortunately, a hefty price of $415,000. That's when I went all in on the home swap, spoke to the agent, give them a U.S. home for their home. The wife seemed interested, but the agent never was able to get back to me because they couldn't come to an agreement with the husband. One thing I will say, agents don't mind in giving lowball offers. In the U.S., we just don't do that. So my last day in Antigua, I went with another agency, Nova Antigua, and a huge shout out to Yessie. She's a great agent. She's on the American rhythm in terms of how a typical gringo wants to do business. She knew I was a serious buyer and gave me 3 options. The first was a really nice house in a nice neighborhood, but it was just too far in terms of walkability. I had made up my mind if it didn't meet that criteria, I wasn't going to be interested. The next house was a mansion in the southern part of town with a very hefty price, $525,000. But she said, don't look at the price. The owner is super motivated for various reasons, which I won't mention here. And someone had just offered an offer for only $300,000. Talk about lowballing. There you have it. She suggested I offer $325,000 and ask for some of the furniture. I felt like it was a snowball's chance in hell, but what the heck. Even though our budget was really around $250,000, I would raise it if all the furniture was included. But it wasn't meant to be. She wasn't that desperate. But I still may try and work out something with a deal on some of her furniture when she does move. There was one more option, and that happened to be a house next door to the one that was at $415,000. But it's not complete. It's called Obra Gris, meaning it's under construction. In this case, all the outside, roof, walls, electrical and plumbing are done. Windows are all complete. But inside, finishing of the floors, kitchen and bath, and texture of walls and paint still needed to be done. But compared to the $415,000, it was a steal. 2,300 square foot for $190,000. And the original architects had to finish it out for an additional $50,000 to be complete by December 2021. Now that may be another chapter under trials and tribulations if it doesn't happen. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, small outside garden with fountain, next door to the house that it was for $415,000, as I mentioned. Other than the lot size, which is larger on the $415,000 home, they're practically the same square footage in terms of living space. So if we stay within that $240,000 budget, we could actually make money on day 1 of it being completed if we had to sell. So we have found the house. How will the closing process be? How does it compare with the States? And how soon can we close? Wait for Chapter 3.